Hey everyone, Clint Brown here with Awaken Village Press. I am super excited for you to join us today. I was able to book our author, Alyee Sakin, in her new book, Reality on Fire, for our chapter on chapter process of going through and meeting these authors and figuring out what their book is about and sort of the behind the scenes, if I can push them a little bit and get some additional answers. Alyee, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Clint. I'm super excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to. Alyee, for those people who haven't met you yet, can you talk a little bit about your backstory and how you found yourself at the along the journey where a book was the thing to do? Talk a little bit about that journey, how you got to the book.
Okay, that deep, long, transformative journey. So, throughout my early years, I had in my experience what I consider a tough childhood, and I grew up in the house of survival that I named
Mm,
it, and had to deal with some mental and verbal abuse and being in fear mode and scared of wherever I would go, how I would move, what I looked like, all different things. So really living in a state of fear and survival as I felt. And so being a child, I had to adapt to wherever I was. And really it was how can I get through each moment feeling as safe as I could in those hard moments for me. And so I went through that. I went to college and I still was coming up with problems of going to negative mindset or thinking, why does God hate me so much? Why did he give me this family? Why don't I have parents? Why are they treating me this way? All I wanted
mhm.
love. And then throughout college, I just was the people pleasing mode, wanting people to love me and like me because I never had that love growing up. And then up until I was 25, I was seeing the glass as half empty. Like someone must not like me if they put me into this life in this body with these experiences.
Mm,
And I also dated a lot from about 15 to 25. So I never was alone. And so when I was 25, I finally was single and I was able to sit me with me and realize, wow, how am I seeing my life? What's my mindset? How do I look at life? And I
mm,
noticed I was seeing the glass as half empty. And I reframed it in my mind and thought, I don't want to live like this anymore. I would rather see the glass as half full and really realize that everybody goes through tough experiences. And it's not because someone is out to get me, but maybe because I chose this, because there was
mm,
a lesson I needed to learn.
mm,
And started the process of coming back to myself. And at 23 years old, I started yoga more for the mental chatter and how do I calm my mind and really get back to myself. And then continued with meditation, spiritual experiences, healers, intuitives, Kundalini yoga,
mm.
different ways that I could connect with people on a more deeper conscious level. And so going through that and slowly coming back to who I truly am, I realized we all don't know how to do this life.
Mm.
Uh, in a way that might be beneficial, and how do we take the life we're given, or possibly some believe as I do, the life we chose to come in as, and look at it as what lessons do we have to learn? How can I grow and how can I live my best life? And throughout my whole life, I really was the woman that wanted everyone to succeed. And I wanted everybody to be able to have a good life and have all the things they wanted and feel good within themselves. And so, wanting that for everybody, it became the same with my experience of coming back to me. I want everyone to be able to have that experience no matter where, how they grew up and in what terms that happened. When I was in my 20s, I volunteered with kids, teaching also them at a school how to relate to their family, how do they speak positive, how to not bully, how to realize that one bit of gossip might spread like wildfire and hurt somebody's life. And so
Yeah.
really realizing getting people young or getting them wherever I can get them is really powerful, and wanting that for everybody, wanting everybody to be able to realize to not define themselves in how they were brought up, how they came into the world, those formative years of 0 to 7, and how can they come to terms with it and really understand why it happened and let go, surrender, release, and have compassion for themselves, so then they're able to live their best life. So when it happened to me, I wanted it for everybody else.
You know, Alyee, I think that there so many people I know, their story comes to mind as you share parts of your story. And I think that one of the things that got me excited about this book as a concept at the beginning was the relatability of it, right? That there somebody's probably watching this and they're somewhere career aged, and maybe they're just at the place of sort of the self-awareness and ready to retool the narrative. Maybe they're just before that, and this will really serve as an awakening. But I was excited about the sort of raw way that you came about some of these concepts. And you know, today when we dive into chapter 1, we certainly will not unpack the whole book. And I'll say this again at the end, but make sure you click on the links in the videos and stuff to get connected to Alyee and her channels and projects so that you can keep getting great content from her. I grabbed a quote from chapter 1, which is on mindset. I wanted to read to you. So I don't know if you've ever had your stuff read back to you out loud, but you're going to have it right now. And it correlates perfect with what you were saying right at the beginning. It says, when I was feeling aligned, I felt happy and connected, and great things were happening in my life. I was surrounded by people who loved me. I felt safe. I may have been reading an impactful book, had a trip planned in the near future, or a concert to attend. I felt appreciated, supporting my community, and I definitely was practicing yoga. In these times, my mindset was positive. And I underline that phrase, feeling safe. You know, safety is such a primal response. You know, how much of mindset do you think is a primal response to sort of the stimulus and the circumstances you're in? Because that safety term is a really interesting psychological term for you to throw in there to sort of button it up. And it gets to a very primal, animals can feel not safe, right? That's a much bigger animal kingdom concept there. How much do you think mindset impacts your understanding of that or hides it? Can you talk a little bit about that?
And you're asking about mindset relating to feeling safe and fear, basically the
Yeah,
opposite.
yeah.
Okay. I think it has to do with it. I think really, truly, especially where I'm at in this now moment, feeling safe has to do with how safe you feel within yourself and how.
Oh, let's camp there for a minute. Yeah, say more about
Okay.
that.
So for me, feeling safe is understanding myself and my past experiences and where I've come from, and having compassion for myself, so then I can love myself even more. And when I love myself and I can understand why I am certain ways, I feel safe within myself. And I
Yeah.
don't judge myself, because the opposite of that is compassion.
I don't know that I've had someone talk about feeling safe within themselves. Um, that's interesting. What is, can you give me an example just so that I'm clear? And I'm just here in the moment because I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
that answer. What, give me an example of something that's unsafe inside yourself so I can in my mind go to something like, what would be an example of a bit, if I chose to do the behavior or I was experiencing it, I could say, well, that's definitely not safe internally
Internally. Okay.
or with myself.
And then again, so part of it, like we said, relates to mindset. So part of it is how you look at it. So I was at a dinner the other night and a friend was like, why didn't you ask if I needed a ride back home? You didn't ask me, and now I feel disrespected. And, you know, you needed to know that I was coming, and you should have asked me, and all of these things. And so, and our other friend was there too. So there was two friends that I was talking about giving a ride home. So at that moment, I could become unsafe, because I'm like, wow, there's two people in front of me. I'm getting confronted. I don't feel safe within myself. Did I do something? And then the unsafe mindset for me is the fear. Did I do something wrong? Am I unlovable? Am I unworthy? Am I going to lose friends? And am I going to end up alone?
Oh,
So that would be an example of not feeling safe. And what I did, which, like I said, I'm in the process of really grounding into this feeling safe within, is not project out my insecurities, which weren't there because I didn't allow myself to have the mindset of victim
right.
mentality. So
Right.
I wasn't like, oh, why is this happening? She didn't tell me she was going. Now I'm getting bullied. Now she's my all of the ways. And also I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable. But I was able to stay safe within myself and know, Alyee, you did nothing wrong. It was up to her to communicate if she needed a ride.
Right.
I didn't have time to babysit. I am doing a lot of things, as you know, and a lot of projects
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And she gets to hold herself accountable. And so I
Mm,
continued to cultivate a safety within by not making myself wrong, by not judging myself, and by not going back to childhood mindset, which is, oh my God, I'm unlovable. I'm not perfect. I must be nothing, worth nothing.
that's interesting. Are you suggesting or not? Are you dancing with the fact that you think you're never wrong, or just not saying you're wrong when you're really not, like not taking on self-blame when there really is no blame?
Of course. Yes, of course, I'm not saying I'm never wrong.
Yeah.
And even today, someone said, are you 100% sure? And I said, I'm 99% because I never say I'm 100% because I
Yeah.
always leave room for error because I never can be 100% in my world. There's always room for someone even else's perception. So what I'm saying in that instance is I knew that I didn't do anything wrong. I knew that she had said, I'll get back to you and let you know if I need a ride. We had discussed it multiple times. I knew that I hadn't heard from her until about 3 hours before I was leaving. And I
Mm,
pulled up our text stream, was like, you haven't texted me in 3 days, so I was able to know this doesn't have to do with me. And then she said, I even had this issue with a friend 2 days ago where they did the same thing. And usually if it happens more than once to someone, it's their
yeah.
lesson to learn. And I'm not saying I could have texted her, I could have been proactive, but I knew at that point not to blame, not to be unsafe within myself and be like, what did Alyee do wrong? And then not feel safe because I felt alone and judged. And then Alyee turned on Alyee as well as feeling her turn on Alyee. And of course, there's times that I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I forgot to call you. I forgot to confirm a time. So I'm not saying, of course, I'm never wrong, but in this instance, when not feeling safe is when you self-abandon yourself,
Mm,
and you disrespect yourself to people please or be a doormat for others. And other times I haven't felt safe is when I make somebody else the highest being in my reality. So I'm not the main character in my story. So again, mindset, shifting my mindset to not a negative mindset to, oh my God, Alyee, you did this, and this wrong. And going negative, I'm not going to have any friends anymore. To
mhm,
staying positive and really, which is chapter 2,
mhm.
staying in a neutral mind, which is I'm observing this. I'm not going to take the projection I'm getting nor project. I'm going to stay in my healthy mindset of this is Alyee. I know I did my best. I know I did as I felt in my experience we had discussed. And I'm going to stay in my positive mindset of who I am, what my intention was, and my heart.
It sort of reminds me on a lightweight level. My mom is a wonderful woman. I'm blessed with a great mom, and she was number 2 out of 8, but she was the first girl, so she was like the second mom, right? She got to mom all the others while her mom was making more of them. Um, and she has an uncanny ability not to take on her kids' problems when we were growing up. And so we would come in worked up about whatever kids are worked up about, and she would say, "Oh, no, 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 go back outside. I'm having a great day. That's not my problem." And like she just wouldn't let us bring our junk energy into her space. She got up, she did this routine and yoga and reading and had this my whole life, every single day. And if you came in hot and like wanted her to adopt your drama, she would just be like, "Oh, no, 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 go back outside. I'm having a good day. Sorry, you can't, I didn't invite you." I mean, just had a little safety barrier around herself that she had developed over the years, which I so respect now as a parent and as an adult, that she understood the warning signs that she might trip and fall into some sort of empathetic situation or self-blame or other sort of stuff. And so you talk a lot in your book about choice, and you've got this phrase in here. I want to have you talk a little bit about choice. It says we get to choose in each moment where we go with those feelings and what we do with them. So it could have been the story you just told, right? You're in this moment, just a normal friend thing, but you get to choose in that moment where we go with it and with those feelings and what we do with them. Every single one of us has that choice. I believe we don't put enough emphasis on the great gift we are given as our birthright. We all have the power of choice. This is sort of a common theme in your writings and in your talking. Talk to me about this uh, choice, because I think some people listening to this do not feel emotionally like they have a choice in these circumstances, but I think you're pretty strongly suggesting they do.
Yeah, and really the choice is how they look at it. And I just spoke about this morning,
Hmm.
which is not reacting, responding, and it's 100% my choice. So I've also had a lot going on, as I do in every moment. And somebody was like, wow, I'd be really upset about what just happened to you yesterday.
Hmm.
That's a lot. And I said, well, it's my choice. I can either look at it again as a victim, or whichever way I'm going to look at it, usually in a victim mentality or in an unworthy mentality. I can choose in every moment, even if I'm being verbally abused by a parent or a sibling, or left out. I can choose, is this happening for me or is this happening to me?
Hmm.
And it really is a choice. And I know, I mean, I've discussed it in personal intelligence workshops and things
Yeah.
like that, where even someone who's a victim of a crime or something, like, did they choose that? And some would argue, yes, on a subconscious level, you called that into your
Hmm.
frequency. And some would say, of course not. That's how can you even ever
Yeah.
suggest that somebody would call that in? But I do think it allows you to keep your power, like or to take your power back. So
Hmm.
instead of me thinking again, God hates me, why was I born into this family? Somebody I must be unworthy, I must be worth nothing, I must be deserving of this, I must be unlovable. Yes, that could be true. And yes, I think talked about it in this chapter, but when I got divorced, it's like I could look at it like, oh my God, I was only married a year, I'm a failure, I'm unlovable. How have I never had a successful relationship? Now I might not have kids because of my age, and what does this look like, and all of the things. Or I could say again, how is this happening for me? What did I learn here? What was my role in it? What's my role in choosing to come in with parents that were the way they were? Well, I know intuitively, and now because I've learned that I came in as a soul, like saying I wanting to learn self-love, and the only
Hmm.
way for me to learn how to love myself is to have two parents that couldn't love me, because I had to go back within,
Hmm.
and I feel like that was one of the biggest things I wanted to learn in this lifetime. Or with divorce, I could look at all the great things that happened. I mean, and he's still in my life today as my deepest family who
Yeah.
cares about me, unconditionally. I got an amazing dog out of it. I had beautiful experiences. I had a beautiful wedding. And all the lessons I learned to stand in my truth and go maybe against what was the norm of getting divorced after 40, and not falling into the matrix ways or what we're supposed to do, but how can I stand even stronger in my knowing of what was
Hmm.
good for me? And so, yeah, again, it's a choice. And it's might not be a choice to that you were victimized of the crime, but for me, it's the choice how we look at it. So again, even when you see victims of rape or abuse, they can choose to be in forgiveness. The forgiveness is not for the other person. It's so they're not holding it in their heart. It's so they're releasing themselves from the
Yeah.
ties that bind them, and it's not for the other person. And yes, we can have compassion. And I mean, I literally was just had somebody who works for me yesterday, take money from my house, and so I can choose to be like, why did this happen again? They stole from me, all of these things, but I'm choosing to say she needed the money more than me. I'm choosing to not hire her back and have her come in my house. And I could sit and be upset about it for the next 3 days, but it's not going to serve me. So like,
Yeah.
how do we serve ourselves, besides staying in the and yes, and I also believe in feeling emotions, like crying about it, releasing it, venting to a friend and saying, this is what happened. This didn't feel okay, which I did. I was able
Yeah.
to process it. I'm not saying like, yeah, it was fine, no problem. But I'm also saying you can choose how you handle it, how you let it come up and out and release it, and then go about your life. And sometimes it takes a day, a week, a year. And I believe in feeling and not stuffing things down. And I also believe that you have a choice in every moment, like, to process it.
How do you currently manage? You've given some good examples here in a very short time frame in your life. How do you manage the fluctuation between positive and negative mindset? Because of, let's say, childhood imprints or programming, negative could come on really quickly. Someone could have that as muscle memory. Something happens and boom, there you go. They're professionals. They got a PhD in negative mindset. And then maybe with practice, they're able to draw themselves back out of that to positive. How do you manage those fluctuations right now?
Right now, okay, I was that person that immediately went negative, just so you know. So I've done a lot of work for like 15 years on this, but right now I observe and witness more.
Mm,
So basically, I see myself go there, right? So I saw myself yesterday start to go into victim mode. Like, so I saw myself, I'm able to have a little bit of separation because I do meditation, because I've been practicing witnessing my own mind, but also knowing I was in a victim. I can't believe this happened. And then she did, and leaving a message for a friend. And then she did this yesterday. And then
yeah,
she did this, building a case against her to
yeah,
why I am the victim. And then after hearing myself vent, which I did once or
yeah,
twice, I was able to again pull myself back. So using the witnessing and observing myself, but not in the moment, maybe
yeah.
an hour later, I was like, huh, I just made myself a victim in that. And it didn't feel so, it doesn't feel great now 2 hours later, because I don't want to sit in this energy, because now I'm giving her my energy. So really witnessing, observing myself and seeing where my mind goes, and then thinking, this doesn't feel great. And how can I get back to feeling good?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that people who, if they are on their journey of self-awareness, I could see that it would be easy at the very beginning of thinking like, well, any negative thoughts serve no purpose, and so I have to stoically respond to all negative things in life. And I think that if you ever achieve that, that's much later in a practice of mindset, that at a physiological level, you might need to move through the adrenaline,
Mm.
move through the cortisol, move through those moments, because things happen. If something was stolen from you, or my favorite aunt passed away last Friday, and I'm just driving along having a great end of my day, and at 6:55 p.m. I get a text from my mom. It's like, Karen passed away, and you're just like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? Your stomach falls out. And it's okay to grieve in that moment. It's okay to move through it. I think what happens, and you give a couple of good rattle off examples in the book, where it's easy to spiral. It's easy to like have the emotion that is an accurate response to the thing, and then you're reacting to the emotion that was a reaction. Then you're like in this spiral, probably goes this way. You're like in this space where you're reacting to yourself reacting, working yourself into a frenzy. And I think that's where I see some early maturity in folks, that they're able to stop that. They're going around and then they go, okay, whoa, I got to go outside for a second, take some deep breaths, hop in the shower. I yelled to the world, and I moved through some of it.
Yeah, or call a friend and have someone support you, and then maybe a friend can, a witness, when you're spiraling, can call you out. Like a friend yesterday said something to me, and I was like, oh, like giving you feedback. Like you said, you can go in nature. Sometimes I just like, twice last night I went over to my dog and I
Mhm.
sat with her in her bed, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hang out with this energy for a minute and
Yeah.
this unconditional love. So there's ways that you can do it. I exchanged some texts with her, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to, I don't know how much I can hold of this, so I'm going to set it aside for a minute and not read the next text, because I don't want to keep this banter. So taking myself out of the equation, like you said, whether going in nature, shaking it off, dancing if you can, or shaking, but even being with a pet, being in
Yeah.
nature, calling a friend and saying what, and I always say, like, what does this seem like to you? Or even having a friend see it and be like, wow, that really that really does, like, that really sucks,
Yeah.
that she did that. That must feel bad. Just to be seen sometimes is really, or, for me to say, Clint, I'm so sorry. That's must be hard. And then you
Yeah.
can be like, huh, it
Yeah. It
is.
validates.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I got one more question for you here in chapter one, and I hope that you want more of the chapter. I'm not going to give you the full chapter in these interviews because I want you to read the book. And again, go check out the accounts linked in the description. But what for you is one red flag that you're entering a negative mindset? Do you know it's coming? Do you have that sort of aura or like, uh-oh, this is, or does it hit you and then you're backing out of it? Do you ever have a sense that it's coming on?
It's usually when something happens that's not what my expectation,
Mm,
or doesn't go my way. And what I mean is, like, I go look at someone's work and they haven't done what I asked them to. And the minute I find out, oh, they haven't done what they were supposed to do the last week, I know that disappointment, anger, anxiety,
mm,
and same with yesterday, where it's like the minute I'm like, oh no, the money I left isn't here. Like the
mm,
second that I experience that, oh no, that's not where I put it, or that's not what I thought, or that person hasn't called me back in 3 days and now I'm feeling a little icky. Like, you can probably sense it a few seconds before, but it's, for
yeah.
me, it really relates to an experience.
Mm,
So you sometimes, like, you didn't know you were going to get that 1 second before,
yeah.
and then you get it and you don't know. Or sometimes, and like, I could have gone and said, I'm going to go speak to this person, who works for me, and they may or may not have done what I needed them to do. And you can coach yourself and be like, okay, if they didn't, can I still stay equanimous? Can I still stay balanced?
Mm,
Or, if they didn't, am I going to have those feelings of course they didn't do it, they never do what they say they're going to do, and I shouldn't have left them alone, and all of the things.
yeah, what I've learned um later in life here is how much I'm like a kindergartner when it comes to energy. And that what I mean by that is if I don't get a full night's sleep, then and I wake up knowing that, kids or whatever stress, I now know that I'm going to be much more sensitive that day to things. Things might trip me up that normal I wouldn't even notice. So I'm sort of buy myself a little padding there. Um, and in the afternoons, I'm much so I'm super nerdy about physiology, but testosterone for men peaks in the morning and peaks again in the afternoon. We get this sort of circadian rhythm thing, and aggression comes along with that as a possibility. And so for me, I'm more irritable in the afternoons, and I know that, like, oh, don't handle sort of a messy business matter in the afternoon. If I handle it just before lunch, I'm typically pretty good, but if I handle it right when I wake up or mid-afternoon, I'm just like, oh, and I'm short with people. And so I'm not good necessarily about seeing the moment always, but I know what I can bring to those moments of, like,
Right.
when I feel strong or when I'm more resilient
Right.
to things. So if I get up and go work out in the morning, I have a routine, I have a big garden, so I'll like make coffee, go garden, work out, and then it's like I sort of burn that morning, whatever, and I feel much more like, okay, I'm resilient and I'm not going to be tripped into negative thinking so
I think
easily.
that's a great thing to do, because like I said yesterday, when there was a message and I didn't listen to it. So to notice, like, sometimes I see an email, I'm like, I can't open this right now. I don't have the bandwidth. And
Yeah.
usually, in human design, I'm an emotional generator. So I operate from emotions. So and I've realized this years ago. I'm like, if I open an email that I'm annoyed with, and if I'm in an annoyed mood, or wherever I'm at, or if I'm already, and I open it, like, if I respond right away, it's a reaction. So, like,
Mm,
yesterday, I knew that I was already exhausted. I had traveled 10 hours a day before. And I was like, I can't really handle one more thing. I'm not going to read the last text. I
yeah.
still don't know what the message said she left yesterday, but it's really about knowing yourself, like you said, right? And saying,
Yeah.
I know it's this time of month for me. I know that this happened this morning. I know that I already got a few things thrown at me. I know that I am done for all of this. And so if you sense when you see an email, or you sense, your mother calling, and it's not going to be a great conversation, then you just don't answer and you take care of yourself first.
Yeah, that's great. I think that there's such a simple or approachable sort of self-awareness that you're suggesting through this journey. And one of the things, again, I appreciate about your book, here wrapping up chapter 1, is you write like you talk, and you talk like we're new friends at a dinner party. Like, when you're at a dinner party and you sort of nicey nice around the table, and then you really connect with someone, and you sort of onesie twosie off, like you churn your chairs, or maybe like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you go get the other couch
Yeah, I just thought
outside.
that was cute, onesie twosie off.
You're right. You sort of buddy up with somebody, and like they have an immediate sense of trust, and then you're sort of maybe more honest than you would be even just knowing someone for an hour or something, but you just feel a real connection. I feel like you write like that moment, just like, hey, let me just shoot you straight on this, this and this and this and this. So I really appreciate it, because it has that sort of energy, and I don't feel vague. Like, you're very punchy with your language, that you use through all this. So yeah, so Alyee, we made it through chapter 1. This is an easy process of going chapter by chapter. Below this video, I think, depending on the platform you're on, below this video, there's like the links and the descriptions and the hashtags and the channels and the website and all that stuff to follow along with Alyee's project of this book and other stuff she's got going on that she might be posting. If you're watching this now you're before the release of the book. You might be watching this in the future and it's already available to you, but make sure you follow the account so you know when it's coming out, and we will make sure that you get one of the first copies that's available. Alyee, thank you so much for joining me for chapter 1. I cannot wait to do chapter 2, and thanks for being on chapter by chapter.
Thank you for having me, Clint.